Hi everyone, we're back with our Startups in 60 Seconds series. I'm here for a longer form interview with Patrick O'Flaherty, the CEO and co-founder of SpeechKit. Patrick, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
I'm the CEO and co-founder of SpeechKit. I started the company with my good friend James McLeod back in 2017. Previous to that, I was working in investment banking for a brief moment after I graduated from UCL. And my first foray into startups was trying to build an equity crowdfunding platform, not too different to AngelList, but obviously, like all first-time founders, ran into a couple of traps, but it was a good learning experience for me. After that, I started SpeechKit with James. James' previous background was developing an audio app for millennials that read the news. I thought this was very cool, and we worked on a B2B approach to that, helping publishers develop audio apps for their podcasts, and that quickly turned into a business in helping publishers that are text-based transition to audio.
And just to rehash a bit, so what was your discipline at UCL? What prepared you to become a founder? Was it technology or computer science or engineering or something related?
Yeah, so at UCL, I did a course called Business Information Management, which was essentially a combination of management and computer science modules. A bit of coding, a bit of business, and I think generally gave me a kind of a broad knowledge to tackle both business and product, really. I mean, in a way that was a product management course.
In terms of the timeline, when did you guys found the business again, and what have you achieved since then? So I presume you've moved well past MPV and onto some of your early clients.
Yeah, sure. So James and I founded the business in 2017. We started off with just a sort of WordPress plugin to target bloggers and help them to convert their WordPress posts into audio. That quickly gained traction, and we quickly gained feedback and data that helped us reinforce and develop the product even further, to a point now where we are is trying to help publishers create high quality custom voices that are unique to their publications.
Is there some kind of sense of ROI that you have? Because I guess the alternative, correct me if I'm wrong, is just to outsource this, hire a voice actor, I guess, who could kind of read it out live, which would preserve the intonation, the cadence of the speech in a very natural format. I don't know how cheap that is. I don't know how realistic that is that a publisher or a blogger could actually deploy something like that. But in a B2B context, how does your product stack up?
What we're really trying to help publishers do is, be able to get access to the audio generation. The audio generation is a generation like ourselves who have grown up with podcasts, grown up with Spotify, being able to stream content and audio. Yeah. And today, when we're encountered with a wall of text, when we're on our phone or when we're reading news online, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And so what we wanted to do was to bring audio to those news stories. And, The Economist for a long time has published articles in audio, and that's been very successful in terms of subscriptions and retention. But for the most part, this is very expensive for publishers. It costs a lot of money to hire human narrators. It costs a lot of money to produce them, and a lot of hassle to kind of like publish them. And so what we wanted to do was to create a solution that would reduce those costs and at the same time give publishers the ability to sort of appeal to the audio generation.
So in terms of commercial activity, how far have you come along? Are you at POC stage with some of your early clients, or have you kind of moved on to firm contracts?
At the moment, we have about 75 news publishers worldwide, including most news publishers in Southern Africa, a few publishers in Denmark, and a couple of other publishers throughout Europe and the US. But we're definitely seeing strong growth and demand for this in South Africa, Scandinavia, Germany at the moment.
Amazing. How did you reach those people? From what I understand, I mean, SpeechKit is quite a lean operation.
Yeah, it's a lean operation. We like to have a small team with a high output. And I guess, we've kind of reached out. We spent a lot of time over the last 2 years speaking to product managers and editors at various news organizations to understand their concerns with audio, to understand what their strategy for audio is. And over time, those relationships have developed into contracts. I guess we've proven to them that we can deliver
What's your headcount now, by the way?
We've got about 9 people on the team at the moment,
Okay.
and that's split with engineers and also growth managers.
So in terms of managing that conversation on the commercial side, because I can appreciate that IT budgets will be limited no matter the scale of the organization in some regard. How does your proposition stack up against, say, an internal marketing manager pushing for a podcast? So is it as simple as that software can actually rip the blog and put it straight into a podcast form and then push that out to whatever popular channels there are, Spotify, Apple, etc.? Or is it seen as a complementary offering that kind of sits in between the two?
Yeah, it's definitely a complementary offering. I mean, the way we see it is, if we look at the audio spectrum for information-based content, on one side of the spectrum, we have audiobooks as long-form text-based content that for now is human read, and then we have these podcasts, which is more for sort of dialogue, which sits in the middle, and then we have shorter-form content like articles, which is essentially a monologue that can be converted into audio. And I think what we're seeing is most publishers are trying to adopt both podcasts and audio articles, and podcasts to facilitate dialogue and discussion, and articles to perhaps have deeper analysis and longer listens in terms of long reads. So it's very much complementary, and it's also born out of the fact that not every publisher is going to have the New York Daily, and a lot of publishers find it difficult to develop podcasts, and they're more sort of confident and satisfied and happy with their articles.
I want to ask about technology, but also about the future vision for the business, and they may go hand in hand, so I'll ask them together. What is within the technology stack? I presume there's some natural language processing. I don't know whether there's going to be some machine learning and AI. And what absolutely fascinates me, and I'd love to try and get the answer out of you if it's not a trade secret, how does the cadence work? Because I listened to some of your samples, and the way it broke up the sentences and didn't kind of trip over itself was amazing. So how did you get all that done? And then what's the long-term vision for all of this?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, what we're able to do is we connect into most text-to-speech APIs from Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and also Yandex.
Right.
But at the same time, we've also developed our own text-to-speech capabilities to develop custom voices. So initially, we've been working with publishers to give them the available voices on the market. And at the same time, where our speciality comes in is in that text processing side, in order to, it's a little bit detailed, but there's a sort of markup language, if you will, called speech synthesis markup language, SSML. And a large part of our technology is about automatically tagging text-based content with SSML prior to sending it to a text-to-speech API. And what that does is it ensures that acronyms are expanded when they need to be, that the right pauses are put in place. And overall, this creates a better listening experience. In terms of the sort of our text-to-speech capabilities, we've been working on them for some time. Our head of machine learning has been reading the latest papers that come out of DeepMind and academia around text-to-speach. And one of the great things that we have is we're able to, put those things commercially into action quite quickly.
Yeah.
And we're busy working on models to make it possible for someone to clone their voice very easily with a very high quality. I'm sure you've heard the Joe Rogan deepfakes and so on. And although those are kind of like, they're interesting and they're novel, what we're trying to do for publishers is to actually create a voice that, other than being novel, is actually of a high quality that they can put their brand on. So, we're building for a world in which, when AirPods eventually take over and everyone's kind of like in this sort of screenless environment, we want to enable publishers to be able to differentiate themselves based on the sound of the content of their articles. And that's kind of where we see a lot of value in personalized voices.
Do you have any specialist capability that you brought in-house? So neurolinguists or data scientists who can help you out with this?
Yeah, so we have our head of machine learning, studied speech synthesis at Edinburgh University,
right,
and has been incredible in terms of, starting off with a lot of the natural language processing algorithms that we've had to build in-house in order to handle the text processing, but also in helping us develop the deep learning models to build voices.
So what comes next in terms of the vision for the platform?
So what we're working on next is what we really want to do is to make it possible for publications, whether you're a large multinational news organization or a blogger or newsletter editor, to be able to very easily create audio versions of your content using customized voices, either your own or professional voice artists, and to sort of bring a bit more personality to text-to-speech space. And that vision hopefully feeds into a world where all content is available in audio if you want it.
Brilliant. I really wish you all of the very best with that. And just before we break for my final question, I always ask this question at the end, but are there any interesting anecdotes or challenges that you've faced along the way that you'd like to share?
Well, definitely one of the challenges is has been trying to kind of like change the perception of text to speech from a tool that is purely just for accessibility reasons to a tool that could actually be used to make sort of any content available in a really high quality audio for us to listen to. And I think obviously devices like Amazon Alexa and Google Home are helping that. But I think we're getting there, and I think that moods and perceptions of the technology are changing for the better.
Thank you very much for your time, Patrick O'Flaherty.
Thanks, Kartik.